Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Cody W3AMG with Bridgecom Systems, and a few of us here at the office have set up these DMR presentations after hours because we want to help you. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it to this one, so it'll just be me tonight. But we're teaching people about DMR, kind of the basics of it. We'll run through what it is, kind of how it got started, what you need to get into it, some stuff like that, and then what it can do for you. Do I have the ability to share my screen? I guess we'll.
You should.
Okay. It's saying host disabled participant screen sharing.
Zoom, how dare it do that? All right, well, hang on, I'll fix it.
So where are you located, Cody?
So I am just north of Kansas City, Missouri, so right in the middle of the country.
Go Hawks.
Okay. Let's see. Well, where do I turn that on? Let's see.
Make host.
Maybe that'll work.
Make host should work.
Well, I hope that doesn't cancel my recording.
Oh, I hope
I'm
not.
gonna try to make you the host, Cody, and then you should be able to do whatever.
Oh, okay. Here we go. It looks like I can now.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. We'll get this going here.
Thanks.
Here we go. Yeah, so DMR. We get asked a lot, like, what is DMR? So DMR started out as, it was actually for commercial use. So it's a digital radio protocol, and it has quite a few advantages over traditional analog radio. But initially, it started out in the commercial space, and as it grew in popularity there, a lot of advantages, people in the amateur radio space started adopting it as well. So what about Brandmeister? We get asked this all the time. There's all these different terms, Brandmeister, TGIF. How's that relate to DMR? What is it? So Brandmeister, or any of the other networks, there's a few out there, is basically a network that takes DMR from local communications and actually links you into networks across the world or the country. So the cool thing about that is if you talk to a DMR repeater, most of the local DMR repeaters nowadays are hooked up to some kind of networks like Brandmeister and can talk to people all around the world. So it's really neat what you can do with it. And that's really all that network does for you, is just allows you to link in to the rest of the community out there. There's a few different networks, one is not necessarily better than the other. We tend to go with Brandmeister just because it's the largest. You can reach the most people that way. But that's what those networks do. You may have heard of them. And we get asked this a lot. What are talk groups, channels, zones, code plugs? There's a lot of different terminology out there, and it can be a little bit confusing, especially if you're new to it. So the way I like to think about it is you have talk groups. So they are basically different topics or groups. So you have talk groups for different states. There's talk groups for different type of activities. They have nets on talk groups. They have a talk group for just about everything you can think of. There's talk groups for different countries as well. And channels is just simply what you actually change with the channel knob on your radio. Now, if you primarily use your radio in one location with a single repeater or a hotspot, most likely you'll actually make a channel for each talk group. That way you can just cycle through those different talk groups. And then zones. So zones, the best way to think about it is they almost are like folders. You can organize everything. You can keep all your channels organized instead of having, let's say you had 800 different channels. With a zone, that allows you to segment that out. Maybe you have your states, your weather channels, your local repeaters. You can separate everything and organize it. That way it's a lot easier to find on your radio. And we also get asked the question a lot for folks getting into DMR. So what's the code plug? Code plugs are basically just the programming in your radio. So if you have a radio, it's a list of all the information in it. It's really probably an overcomplicated term. But it's real simple. It's just literally the programming in your radio. So if you hear someone talking about a code plug, or hey, I can share a code plug with you, that's basically just the programming file that's in their radio. So it will include all the repeaters, talk groups, basically all the information, which can be super useful, by the way. So what do you need to get started with it? So the first thing, obviously, you will need an amateur radio call sign. Hopefully all of us here have that. If not, we'd love to help you get set up with it. I'm sure your club will as well. And then beyond that, a DMR ID, you do have to have a number. Basically, You register with your call sign. It's totally free. If you have a call sign, you can get one. radioid.net. You go over there and they're good folks. They'll help you get set up with a DMR ID. Pretty simple. You just give them your name and call sign and proof of your license, and they give you an ID. If you have trouble with that, we have pretty direct workings with them, so we can help you get through. But you will need a radio ID. And then after that, if you're wanting to use it for amateur radio, most likely you want to actually talk to people around the world or in different areas within the country. And for that, you will need to have some kind of Brandmeister account or a different network if you're using a different one if you're going to work on a hotspot. You can see in this picture here, there's a radio and a hotspot device. Now, what a hotspot can do is if you don't have any local repeaters, or if you travel a lot and don't want to program in all those different repeaters, it actually runs off an internet connection, whether that's Wi-Fi from your cell phone or via hardwire, and you can talk to the whole DMR network through a device like that. So if you're using a hotspot, you will need to make an account. Otherwise, if a local repeater, you can skip getting a Brandmeister account. And then you will need a DMR radio. I highly recommend, when you're picking out your radio, make sure to look for one that has a very large digital contact list capacity, because the list out there is growing very fast right now. And a lot of the radios on the market are either at like 200,000, the limit, and the list actually just crossed over that 200,000 mark. So you may end up buying a radio that's almost obsolete. So just watch out for that. Make sure it can support a lot of contacts because that list is growing pretty quick at this point. And then a DMR hotspot or local repeater. So if you have your radio, you will have to find a way to talk to other DMR folks. So either a local repeater, if you have a DMR repeater nearby, then you're all set there. But if you want to do a lot of stuff from your home or traveling, the hotspot can be a great way to go because it gives you that access. You can program it, set it up once, and it works almost anywhere. So that's kind of really all you'll need is just a snapshot to get into DMR. So what's the benefit? What would it do for you? We have a lot of people have had trouble getting into it, and a lot of people, don't really know if it's right for them. So here's some of the advantages that DMR would have over traditional analog. So it can carry voice and data a lot faster. With it being a digital signal versus analog, you get a lot of advantages like that. One of the other things, it can also, with it being digital, it actually can carry more data too. As you get more into it, you'll hear of something called a time slot. So basically with DMR, instead of having two or one communication path on a frequency, you can actually have two different time slots. So you could theoretically have one frequency and two different communications going on that same frequency with DMR. So some neat things on the technical side. You don't have to worry about that as a beginner, but it does have some major advantages there. And then in general, you'll get a lot less background noise. If you've ever had an analog radio, you can hear all the background noise sometimes. DMR, super clean audio, almost like a radio reception in your vehicle, like music radio or almost cell phone quality audio. You get really good audio with it. And the other advantage, it will really increase your battery life. DMR takes a lot less battery strain, so you get better battery life with it. And one of the biggest advantages, at least to me, there's no like edge for the signal drop off. You don't get that distortion when you're close to the edge of your signal. With DMR, if you're in range, you're going to have great signal. If you go out of range, then you won't have signal anymore. There's no in between, which can be very useful. And so here's a review we got a while back for one of our plug and play packages. Now, what I want to point out here, this is what's significant about DMR, the highlighted section. My first QSO was answered from Australia. How crazy is that? Since then, I have made dozens of contacts all over the world. So that really is the power of DMR, the part I highlighted right there. People being able to jump on, not really having necessarily a ton of radio experience and make contacts all over the world. The first time I got on DMR, I believe I talked to someone in the UK. It was a very neat experience, not really having used a radio much before, and then jumping right into it, being able to do something like that. Obviously, if you're, fans of HF radio, it's a totally different thing. They're not made to compete with one another. but it's a lot of fun. And, you know, a lot of people are worried about, man, I don't know enough about radio. Can I get into something like this? The great thing with DMR is there's really not a big barrier to get into it. The biggest thing really is just the programming. There's a lot of resources out there nowadays to help you with that. You know, there's no waiting for the right time of day to make your contacts. And all you need is a technician license. So if you have a call sign, you're good to go with DMR. So how can we help you? So one of the things we do, we love helping ham radio operators. We've helped thousands of ham radio operators at this point. We get calls almost every day. Our team, someone will call in and, they've had their radio and they've put it on the shelf for years because they couldn't figure it out. And that's troubling to us because we don't like to see that. We want people up and on the air making contacts. So we love to help people with their radios. We have a great support team in house that's pretty much all they do. All they help people with their radios. And then we have unmatched support. If you get a radio from us, we're always here to help you. And even if you don't, we usually try to find a solution for you to get you help. And then also we have a cool, awesome thing we put together, Bridgecom University. So any radio you get from us, or even if you don't, you can actually get access to this as well, Bridgecom University. There's over 150 DMR videos. It's basically like a course from beginner to expert. So there's step-by-step how-to videos that will teach you how to program your radio, how to use it, what DMR is all about, how to do just about every feature in the radio is in that course. So that's actually included for free with any radio from Bridgecom. And then this is something we have, definitely take a look at this. It's called a plug and play package. We put this together a few years ago, and it has really helped a lot of people. For those of you who maybe don't have the time or are struggling or don't want to mess around with the programming of everything, we have a package where we do all of the hard part. So basically we get your DMR ID, your call sign, and we program the radio and the SkyBridge together with all those awesome talk groups and test it, make sure it works, ship it out to you so you can basically get on the air regardless of if you have repeaters nearby, because that SkyBridge takes care of it, and you're talking to people around the world. So a neat option for a lot of folks who maybe don't want to they don't want to mess with the learning curve of it. It's a great way to jump in, and then you still get the university so you can actually learn from there. So that's another option we have for those folks who want some extra help like that. And that's pretty much all we have is a basic snapshot of DMR and what it can do for you. I'd love to answer some of your questions.
Okay, so one question that comes to mind is you mentioned that you have the plug and play package. So you guys have a standard code plug that you use. Do you customize that for our local area? I know we have, what do we have around here, Ragnar? What, about 6 or 7 DMR repeaters?
Yeah, that's right.
So we have DMR repeaters in the area. Does your code plug take advantage of those, or is it strictly if we were to use like the SkyBridge or another hotspot type device?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the code plug that would come with the plug and play package is really just set up for the SkyBridge because unfortunately we'd have no way to test your repeaters there. Now we will customize it. We'll put in your statewide talk group for your area. So we will do a little bit of customization for you. Now, excuse me, if you want to add those repeaters afterwards, it's super easy. In fact, we even in the code plug, we actually have templates and zones set up for those repeaters that are all ready. You just have to add the frequencies to them. So it's ready for that. And we have videos that show you how, but it does not come with it just because we'd really have no way to test it. Now, if you have local DMR repeaters and you're very familiar with the program, and you can also just get the radio and use it with them. But the SkyBridge can open up a few more options for you. You can also, with that SkyBridge, not just talk on DMR, you can cross mode to other digital networks as well, such as D-Star or System Fusion, NXDN. There's a lot of different modes out there, and it supports those.
So the SkyBridge is as a full-featured hotspot. It's not limited to just DMR.
Absolutely. Yep. You can use it with other kinds of radios. It'll work with pretty much anything.
Okay, so I've got the 878. I haven't used it very much. It's been, I'm not even sure where the radio is right now, but if I was to pull that out and wanted to get started on it, I know I bought it from you guys through the Amazon account. And I'm pretty sure the Bridgecom University came with it, but I have no idea where I'm at in that. Who would be a person to contact to find out if somebody, I know we've got some guys that have the, what is it, the 578? Is that the mobile one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I know that's a DMR capable radio as well. So I'm not sure, do you guys buy them from Bridgecom or? Okay, so I guess we already have some people who are already customers. So that's
Okay.
if
Awesome.
if we've got questions, what's the best way to contact somebody at Bridgecom to find out more information or figure out where we're at and what we're supposed to be doing here?
816.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could call that number there. We'll get you in touch with someone. I can give you, here's my direct contact number as well. If you want to reach me directly, I can help you. I'll get you in touch with the best person for, whatever you need. So if you guys want to write that down, you're welcome to keep that. And, I'll answer calls when I'm not asleep. But yeah, so we can help you with that. In terms of the university, I can, if you don't have your access code anymore, I can, assuming you bought it from us, I can get you that. I can get you set up on the bridgecomuniversity.com. We'll get you set up there.
Okay. So one of the things that I know some of our guys have done, since we're not really up to speed on the digital, is we've used the radios for our analog use. And I don't know, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you could program in analog repeater frequencies in those radios as well, because some people may be thinking, well, great, I buy this DMR radio and it's only good for DMR, but it's really more than that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I have a lot of analog stuff programmed in my personal 878 radio. You can program in analog repeaters or frequencies just as easily as DMR. In fact, you can even put them in the same zone, or you can separate them. It doesn't make a difference. I do a lot of stuff with the railroad frequencies, so I have all those frequencies programmed in my radio. I have some analog repeaters nearby, as well as all the DMR stuff and my hotspot. So you can program in just about anything you like. The thing that I really like with this radio is the organization, because some radios you can program a lot into them, but you can't organize it, which makes it real hard to use. This gives you so many options for organization with the zones, and you can even hold down the 0 button and punch in whatever you're looking for too, when it comes to talk groups. So you can very quickly navigate the radio.
Anybody else have other questions? Please feel free to ask. I don't want to be the only one asking questions.
Hey, Jan, this is Chris.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, just wanted to say that, yeah, on my Anytone, I've got all of the standard load from Aries programmed into mine. And by setting it up with the zones, you can actually have the zone number correspond with the channel number on the standard load. So it's really quite a versatile. There's a lot to it. There's no doubt about that, as I'm sure Cody can attest to. The programming, the first few times you get into it's a little bit deep, but certainly DMR Utah can help with that. I think they've got a code plug that just has all of the standard load for our area in it. Plus, I work with Stuart Thorpe, who's really good with these things. And as a matter of fact, he just sent me a brand new code plug today with all of the local repeaters, all of the main talk groups that we could use, and we can add more to it, and the standard load as well. So there are a lot of resources here as well. I know Bridgecom does a dynamite job, but if we need something more localized, we can get that.
So
Hey,
there's,
Chris,
go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, Dan?
would you send Jan that code plug so we can put it out on the website?
Nope.
Possible?
Nope.
No? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll get it off. I'll get it off in a few minutes, Jan.
May the fleas of 1,000 camels infest
Yeah.
your armpits tonight.
The only thing I'll warn you about is there's a place in there where you can set up, your name, your call sign and stuff when you turn on the radio, those kinds of things. And right now it's got mine on it. So whoever gets the code plug, make sure you go in and put your own stuff in it. And it's not, that part of it is easy.
So that would be your call sign and radio ID, basically, that you need to update with your own actual value then.
Right, that's correct. Yep. Yeah, you update, you put in your radio ID, and that is you need for everything. And your name and your call sign or whatever you want to come up on the splash screen when the radio first boots up. Unless you like looking at my name and my call sign, which is fine.
So I have a question for Cody. I have at least two DMR radios. And I have two separate radio IDs. Was that how I was supposed to do that? Every radio has its own radio ID. That's why I registered twice for a radio ID. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a couple different ways you can do that. There's no problem with that. Some folks have two radio IDs that won't cause any trouble. I believe there's a way to put like a 0 or a 1 or something before or after. I forget the exact sequence, but there's a way you can use your same DMR ID for that purpose as well. But no harm in having two.
Okay, thank you. And do you know offhand how many digital contacts are in the code plugs right now?
Yeah, so in the digital contact list is, I want to say it recently crossed over 200,000, maybe a couple months ago. They seem like they're adding about 500 a week. So it's probably, somewhere over 200,000 or so. And in the code plugs we have, we include that entire list in it. So if you have a lot of the new radios have like a 500,000 capacity. So you should be set for a while with them. But just do pay attention if you're looking at a used radio or even a new one, just make sure it can support that list.
So what's the drawback if you have an older radio that has a smaller list? You have to pick the 200,000 of your closest friends to put in your list. Is that right?
Basically, yeah. So,
Hey,
really
Jan. Oh. Go ahead, Cody.
Oh yeah, really the only disadvantage is that if you don't have that whole list, you'll probably run into some people where it won't show their name and call sign, it's a real neat feature being able to see that.
So it'll just show their radio ID
Cody,
number.
I have a question.
Correct.
Somebody else is trying to ask a question.
Sorry,
Right.
Jan. Yeah, Cody, I've got one of your older radios. Is there any way to get it upgraded with more memory rather than buy one of the new ones?
I wish that would be neat. That's not something that we know how to do, but there was a gentleman in the shop here today. He had upgraded went inside and modified his 868 to turn it into an 878. So it's not to say it's not possible, but it's not something we've done before.
I've seen something where people have loaded different firmware onto their radios. So if they had an 868, you could put the 878 firmware on it.
Mhm.
One of the questions that I had, I know the 578 has the 1.25 meter band. I think it's limited to 5 watts. Is that right? And but the 878 does not have that. Is there any potential for that as a future option? Because we do use that band here in Utah quite a bit. Our club is really invested in the 1.25 meter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, we haven't heard anything of that. That would certainly be neat to see. You didn't hear this from me, but I do know of a club that is using the 878s for that. They do about 1/4 watt. Do some Google searching and you might figure out how to do it, but they're not, I don't think they're certified for that. So that I can't recommend that.
So you're not allowed to tell us anything official about that, but
Nope.
it is theoretically possible is what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah, I think I saw something where somebody was running 578 firmware on the 878. And I didn't want to do that to my radio because I like my radios and I don't want to beat them up like that. But I've seen some significantly cheaper, not any tone DMR radios. Do you have any opinion on those? I think doesn't Baofeng make one? I seem to recall seeing something like that.
Yeah, they do. There's some other, like Radiodity, and there's Motion. All of the makers have a DMR radio.
They do.
Yeah.
So is there any super big advantage other than that Bridgecom system gets our business to go with the Anytone, or what do you think about?
Yeah, absolutely. So this will be true for the radio and also the hotspot, the Skybridge. You can find much cheaper radios and hotspots out there. I won't doubt that. The thing is, when you buy the Anytone radio or anything from Bridgecom, the Anytone radios are a much better quality radio. They last longer. I've had some of the cheaper Chinese stuff before, and it just isn't the same. It's harder to use, and there's one of the big advantages of the buying from Bridgecom. Not only do you get the radio or the hotspot, you also get all the support. I haven't found another place out there that does what we do with the support. If you have trouble, you can call us. You get a live technician on the phone here in our shop in Kansas City, and we'll help you through it. We have a huge resource database of videos, hundreds of videos that walk you through how to do things. That comes with the radio. So if you don't want to be left in the dark, that won't happen at Bridgecom.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Neil.
So I have the 878, that's the previous version, not the newest version. How many channels could you have on that one?
That one would be 200,000. So you can fit pretty much the whole list on that.
That's the same.
Obviously, you won't be able
That's
to
the
put
one right here, yeah.
And if one of there was a gentleman had a tip on that, on what you can do if you have a radio like that. If you don't do a lot of international talking, you can just load the US contact list on it. You can find a list that's filtered like that, and that way you'll have all of the people in this country in your radio at least.
Yeah, because the radio IDs are organized or grouped by your country, I think, right? Isn't that correct?
Correct.
So you could say like only, if you didn't want anybody from
Ukraine?
Ukraine, yeah, sure.
No, Russia.
Or Russia.
Ukraine's okay.
You could omit all the ones that start with the Russia prefix, for example, from your copy of the list.
Right.
Dan's got a thoughtful look on his face. Sounds like, I think another question is about to surface.
No, I'm good for right now.
Okay.
So where can you find these lists? Where do you go to find the list?
Yeah, so the list is downloaded from radioid.net. So if you go to that website, radioid.net, and then just go to the database file, you can download for the Anytone radios, you want the user.csv file.
Okay, so that brings up another question on the code plugs. Are the code plugs specific to a type of radio? For example, the 678 versus the 578? Would the code plug be compatible between the two, or would you need a different one depending on the radio that you have?
Yeah, so the radios, the code plugs, they are different. They are a different file. If you want to transfer one, it's pretty simple. You just have to export it a certain way and then re-import it a certain way. We have videos that will cover all that for you.
Okay.
Now, if you were talking about like purchasing a code plug, we sell a couple, the super code plug and the ultra code plug, that have like over 800 different talk groups in them. Those actually come with a version for all of the different radios we offer. So you'll be set there.
Okay. There was one other question I had. I remember the radio having a feature, I think it was called roaming or something like that, where it would automatically switch from one repeater to another.
Yeah.
It moved around. I have no idea how that works. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I haven't personally used it a whole lot, but I'm at least a little bit familiar with it. So the roaming feature on the radio, you would set up a roaming list, I believe, similar to a zone or a scan list. And as long as you have the repeaters programmed in your radio beforehand, as you're traveling, the radio will basically, just based on reception, automatically switch to the repeater that's within range. So if you're traveling along and one repeater is further away and you have a stronger signal on the next one, it will automatically switch over.
Automatically. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. As long as you have them programmed in beforehand, it'll do it.
I do have another comment.
Go ahead, Dan.
And this is more of a comment for Bridgecom. You can buy Anytone radios from a number of sources. Doesn't have to be Bridgecom. But I'll tell you what, unlike PC laptops, where you buy a $300 laptop and they charge you $4,500 because of the lifetime warranty on it.
You get to it.
Bridgecom does not do that to you. So that's why I like to buy through Bridgecom, because you get the support. And like Cody says, and by the way, I am not being paid anything from Bridgecom to say this. But yeah, top-notch company, Cody.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, you didn't have to say that, but we appreciate it.
All right, any other technical questions about DMR?
How much bandwidth does it take to use a hotspot?
Could you hear that, Cody?
Oh, I'm sorry. What's the question? I did not.
Question was, how much bandwidth do you need for the hotspot?
How much bandwidth? Yeah, so we tested it a while back. I forget the actual number. It's very, very low. You can use it with a dial-up connection. So if you have any kind of modern internet connection, you won't even notice it. Really, the latency. If you have really poor latency, you might run into trouble. But really, everything we've ever tried it with, we've had no problems with.
Neil just said if he was in West Yellowstone, he'd have problems. So
Yeah.
apparently
It's
the
so slow.
internet up there isn't great. So.
I was hardwired and it would not even like connect. It would run Netflix hardwired into the television. Yeah.
I bet it would run a SkyBridge. You don't need bandwidth, just latency.
So
They were on break.
the bandwidth isn't the big factor. The latency is the factor. So if you're stuck on HughesNet, you probably don't want to use it. But
No, you don't.
Yeah, well, that sounds like an experience that
It's an
somebody has had
experience.
there.
It's an experience.
Okay, so other questions? Any other questions or comments? Got, how many people did we get today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We got 15 in the room and looks like 3 online as well. So pretty good turnout. There was a chat question. DMR Utah can help with local code plugs. Okay, thanks, Chris, for that.
Also, I will say that the Utah channel 6130, I can't remember the number. It is changing because the DMR people, Rainmeister is doing something, or there's some reason why we're adding 2 zeros at the end.
May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that one is not going away. The problem was that we were running nets on the DMR channel, and the Brandmeister folks got pissed and told us we couldn't do that anymore. So it's like, well, what's it for then? Anyway, so DMR Utah set up those 2 additional talk groups that are, what was it, 3140, whatever the Utah talk group is, and then 314100 and 01 are 2 new talk groups that DMR Utah controls, and we can hold the nets on that.
So the idea is to make your contact just like the 14652
Oh, so
channel,
like, yeah,
right?
okay, like the calling
And then
channel.
say, yeah, then go to
And switch to another.
Correct,
exactly.
correct. Yep,
Okay.
and then go over to one of the 00 or 01 to Ragju.
Okay, so that would be that's kind of an etiquette thing. About
Yes.
DMR. So given that you've got the 2 time slots and you can essentially multiplex 2 conversations on the repeater at the same time, what happens if it's full? What, do you get some kind of indication or notification that you can't talk, or how does it interleave you? How does that work?
Yeah, so if it's busy, if it's active, you just won't be able to talk basically. If it's not, then you can talk. It's pretty much as simple as that. If you're talking via like a hotspot, a simplex device, there can be an interesting thing if you want to disconnect from a talk group. You just have to wait until someone is not talking to key up that disconnect. But generally, if you try to key up, if you're just keying into the repeater with a traditional repeater, you shouldn't have any trouble. But once you're in it and can hear people talking, just wait till there's silence, and then you can talk.
Okay, so the hotspots are simplex devices. So I'm assuming they're very low power. I mean, are we talking like a quarter of a watt, or how much power are they putting out? So
Yeah. I can't remember the exact number. It's somewhere around there. It's pretty low power on the hotspot. It will cover, cover a household. We can get reception down the block, a few blocks down the road here, but they're not intended to be like repeater systems.
How do you
They're
pick a frequency for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you pretty much pick your frequency. It'll come with if you get it from us, it'll come on 446-525 I think 446-550 is what they ship with now. And you can easily change that if you'd like. And if you get the plug and play package, we do all the setup for the radio and the SkyBridge. So they come ready to go, but it's super easy to change that frequency if you want to.
There's 3 frequencies for the Utah group.
So Utah has identified 3
Yeah.
simplex frequencies for that? Okay.
Yeah, based on your area, there may be some frequencies that are recommended. Typically like 446-550 or 446-525 are totally fine anywhere. But definitely follow your local guidelines.
I've been using 911. It doesn't work.
Paul, you had a question?
Can anyone start their own DMR server?
So can anyone start their own DMR server?
Yeah, theoretically. I don't see why not. Don't think there's anything
your
in place
own-
stopping you.
That would be your own network equivalent to
Grandmaster.
Brandmeister, right? So you could theoretically, if you had control of the repeater, you could set it up to talk to whatever server you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that open source or do you have to buy that?
Do you know, Cody, if that's open source software to run something like that, or is that? product?
Well, so that they have some different, there's Brandmeister and TGIF, those different networks. I mean, you'd have to just develop one. I don't know that they are open source. I think a lot of them are. But if you wanted to create your own network, you could totally do that. You just have to develop it. I don't think there's anything too proprietary about it.
Jan,
What
are
about-
you talking, sorry, Jan, are you talking about setting up your own entire network? Or are you just talking about setting up a digital repeater to tie into Brandmeister?
I think Paul was asking about setting up your own network.
If you want to be.
Your own network, got it.
Yeah, to be independent of say Brandmeister or whatever. So speaking of that, setting up a repeater for that, what does our repeater coverage look like around here, Ragnar? Do you know?
It's pretty good from Payson all the way up to Brigham City.
Okay. Do you know if like Cache Valley has anything or?
Cache Valley has it. Yeah, Cache Valley has them too.
Okay.
But it's smooth coverage all the way from Payson to Brigham City.
Okay.
Hey, Jan?
Yeah,
Yeah, in the code plug that Stuart built, it has most all of the repeaters that are here in Utah, period. He's got them all set. He actually got in his car and drove around to make sure he could hit them all.
that sounds like Stuart, all right.
That's Stuart. That's just the way the guy works. Yeah, he went on a road trip.
So I guess
That sounds like fun.
we wouldn't need another one here in Salt Lake area then if there's already good coverage here.
Well, they can get, it just depends. They can get, as Cody was mentioning, they can get a little bit overcrowded. You've got, the 2 time slots.
So
But
potentially,
if somebody's got,
yeah, you'd have to
if
have. a
somebody's got one of the
frequency
times slot, tied up to, say, the worldwide, Talk Group 91, and the other one is on for Utah, and you wanted to get on one for Arizona, and until somebody stopped using that, you would be conflicting with them, I believe, Cody, if I'm not mistaken, because I've tried doing that a couple of times, and I can see that there's traffic on there, although I can't hear anything, but it tells me that there's traffic on that repeater on that time slot.
Correct. Yeah, that's one of the major hotspot advantages. With the hotspot, you're totally free to do whatever you want. They're not limited by what anyone else is doing.
So Jen, my point is, it would not hurt to, if we wanted to put up our own hotspot or our own repeater.
Our own repeater.
Yeah.
Is that a product that Bridgecom System sells? Is a DMR repeater? Or is that
It
not?
is. Yeah, we offer a DMR repeater, and actually
Imagine that.
yeah. Yeah, and actually the other guy who was going to be here, Josh, I believe he set it up with you folks, the presentation.
Yeah.
He's put together a system what we're doing is basically offering clubs a good deal on repeaters. So we're putting together a way for you can almost pay for a repeater, for free almost. So how that would work, I don't have the specifics. I'll have Josh email that to you.
Okay.
But it would be set up so you guys could basically put together a code or something. So when if any of you buy radios through us, then that would go as credit towards the repeater system. You would get credit for those radios, and then you could apply that towards the repeater. And if you bought enough radios, you basically get that repeater for free.
So how many radios are we talking about?
Now
Like,
you
go.
go.
Yeah, so I don't remember and I apologize. Like I said, he usually does this part. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's a pretty good deal. I remember that. I'll have him send you over that information.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where we would put it, but I'm sure we could find a 180-foot tower somewhere that could hold another antenna or two. We have right here in the middle of the valley, 200-foot tower, Cody, that is owned by Murray City. And so we have our 1.25 meter repeater on that tower, but we could certainly put additional antennas on there. So
Oh, okay.
that would actually be pretty cool if we. had
And
something.
we can actually do a 1.25 meter DMR repeater. We've done it for a club.
Well, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Although the 878 wouldn't work on it unless we hacked it a little bit. but-
Yeah, then my DMR radio won't work.
Okay, other
Hence,
questions?
hence,
Anybody else?
well, that's why you have a special to buy more radios, see? It's all connected.
It's all connected, that's right. Other questions, comments?
So I don't have the Sky Bridge, I have the DV Mega.
Okay.
I haven't played too much with it, but I guess you guys still support that.
It's been a while since we've carried that, but yeah, we used to carry them. They're a solid little hotspot. I
Well,
mean,
I
obviously,
think when I bought mine, it was like a month later, the Sky Bridge came out.
oh, okay.
So it's been a while, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have waited, because
Right.
Sky Bridge,
Yeah, they're
But-
good hotspots. If it's still working for you, then great.
Okay, so but the Sky Bridge would also work with the older 878, no problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, I've seen some hotspots that have like dual antennas on them. The Sky Bridge is only a single transceiver in there, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's got a transceiver in there. It's actually a dual band hotspot, but it has a dual band antenna versus having two antennas.
Oh, I see, okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
I'm
Paul's got
appreciating,
another
I'm
question
appreciating
for us.
getting more information on the DMR. I'm going to have to get with somebody one-on-one. It's interesting to me, this disconnect in my brain. I work in IT. I work in cybersecurity. I understand that part of the world. But in the radio world, I am having a really hard time wrapping my mind around why I care on DMR. Like, what is the use? I've got my handheld. I'm only a year old in this, right? So I've got my handhelds. I got UHF, VHF covered that way, and it's in its infancy stage. I'm getting HF capability with several bands, and now you're talking to me about DMR where I can only do that, and I can't figure out why I care. So one of y'all is you can do that offline one day. You can slap me around, make me understand.
Well, I can tell you right now, this is Max, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Max, this is Dan. A great way to get into HF capabilities is DMR. You don't have to get an HF radio to talk to Australia.
Paul just got a funny look on his face.
So, a lot of people, it used to be that the only way to talk to other people around the world is through HF comms, right? Well, that's still true when the grid is down. When there's no internet, we have no DMR, right? So this is all dependent on the internet being active. If it's down, then that will not work. This whole DMR stuff will not work.
It'll work on a local repeater, just locally. It'll continue to work, right? The
Okay,
repeater doesn't
that-
have to be connected for it to work, right?
Yeah, Max,
That
Max,
connectivity- Good, thank you.
Yeah, Max, but that was one of my comments. DMR is a poor man's HF. For very little money, you can get on and literally make contacts all around the world. I use mine. I'm talking to people in Australia. I happen to run a net down there once a week. So it really is a great way to get that experience before you stick $3,000-4,000 into an HF rig and antenna and tower and everything else. It is just another mode. It's an interesting one. So there are good reasons for it.
So I
Thank
got some questions about the, was there another comment related to that? I'll let you do that first. I think, Max, were you going to say something?
No, not me. I'll have to sign off in a second. My salmon is ready downstairs.
Okay. So I was going to ask about the digital capabilities. Cody, you mentioned that the system handles both voice and data. What are some of the things that you can do with the data side of it that would be different from, any other like packet or VARA or something like that? So we're getting into WinLink a lot around here. Is there a way to run WinLink over DMR?
Yeah, so good question. I'm personally not very familiar with WinLink, so we'd have to get back to you on that. You could certainly give us a call. We'll get that information to you. As for the data, you can actually send like text messages over DMR as well. So if you want to send someone a message, let's say you're talking on a network, on a DMR talk group, and you want to send someone a message, you can quite literally send them a message, or you can do a call as well. You can do a private call. There's quite a few data options. You can probably do a lot more than that, but as for the amateur side, those are the primary things. But mainly people use it for voice communication. It just links you together with everyone else.
Anybody else? Paul, did you have another question? No? Okay. Anybody? Bueller? If he doesn't ask it like Bueller, he asks Bueller. Bueller. Sorry. All right. Anybody else on the Zoom got any questions?
No, just want to thank Cody for his time and appreciate it. Really, it's been very informative. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us this evening.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me out and giving me the opportunity. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. You can see my number on the screen. We actually, I almost forgot to mention this. We do have a pretty big sale going on right now. It was going the 6th through the 8th. So tomorrow's the last day of it. We have some good deals like that Ultra Code plug, which includes 800 different talk groups. We're giving that away for free with the plug and play package, usually $100. So we can get you set up with that if anyone's interested.
So don't buy one until I talk to Josh about that repeater deal. So,
Well, we can as long as you tell us when you buy it, we'll make sure we put that in the notes. So you'll get credit for it.
okay. All right. Well, thanks, Cody. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time this evening. And I know it's a little later in Missouri than it is here. So we definitely appreciate you sticking around and having a conversation with us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me.